Hey there, my city stomping skyscraper smashers! Today we're diving into the monster mash mayhem of the original Rampage video game. Ever wondered what it would be like to unleash your inner beast and casually demolish entire city blocks while battling away pesky helicopters? Well, strap in because that's exactly what we're talking about. And stick around because later I'll reveal a jaw-dropping secret about the game that turned the developer's world upside down and might just do the same to yours. Our story starts back in the mid-1980s. The video game industry was bustling with innovation, and amidst this creative boom, a game that would later become a classic, Rampage, was born. Developed by Bally Midway, Rampage was the brainchild of game designer Brian Colin and programmer Jeff Nauman, who sought to break from the traditional shooter and sports games saturating the market at the time. Their idea? A game where players didn't save the city, but destroyed it. The inspiration for Rampage sprang from a rather unusual place. Brian Colin was reportedly fascinated by monster movies, particularly those featuring giant creatures like King Kong and Godzilla wreaking havoc. This fascination sparked a thought: what if players could actually be the monsters? From this simple question, Rampage began to take shape. The development team wanted to flip the typical video game narrative on its head, giving players the chance to play as the antagonist, a fresh perspective that was both intriguing and daring during that era. One of the most innovative aspects of Rampage was its character design and the decision to include multiplayer options, which was not common back then. The game featured three monsters: George, a giant ape, Lizzie, a massive lizard, and Ralph, a huge werewolf. Each character was an ordinary human transformed by bizarre accidents involving toxic waste and other sci-fi tropes, a nod to the classic monster movie formula that inspired the game. Development challenges were significant, given the technical limitations of arcade machines in the 1980s. Creating destructible environments and maintaining smooth gameplay with multiple players on screen was a technological hurdle. The team employed creative solutions, such as limiting the color palette and simplifying animations, to ensure the game ran smoothly on the hardware available. This focus on technical optimization paid off, allowing Rampage to run seamlessly on arcade machines across the country, much to the delight of players. Now, in Rampage, as mentioned earlier, we have our three monsters: George, Lizzie, and Ralph. Each of these characters wasn't born a monster, but transformed through accidents involving toxic substances. George was originally a human until he ingested a mysterious substance that turned him into a King Kong-esque ape. Lizzie, on the other hand, found herself the victim of a radioactive lake, transforming her into a Godzilla-like lizard. Ralph's transformation followed a similar bizarre accident, morphing from human to werewolf, adding a variety and a sense of humor to the catastrophic trio. The storyline of Rampage is simple yet effective. The monsters, driven by hunger and rage, travel across the United States to demolish cities. The narrative provided players with a direct, engaging goal: destroy everything in sight and earn points for each act of destruction, from toppling buildings to swatting helicopters. This straightforward, chaos-driven plot was particularly appealing as it deviated from the more complex storylines typical of games during this era, making Rampage accessible and immediately rewarding. Character development in Rampage was primarily visual and performance-based. The designers carefully crafted each monster's animations to express personality and emotion, a significant feat given the graphical limitations. George's lumbering, ape-like movements, Lizzie's reptilian slithering, and Ralph's ferocious howls all contributed to a gameplay experience that was as humorous as it was destructive. Additionally, Rampage was pioneering for including multiple characters with different animations but similar capabilities, which was a novel feature. This not only enhanced the gameplay's replay value, but also increased its appeal among groups of friends, as players could choose their favorite monster and wreak havoc together. And speaking of havoc, the gameplay revolves around the simple yet addictive mechanic of destruction. Players control one of the three monsters, and the goal is to demolish the city buildings while avoiding attacks from military forces and other hazards. The game was innovative not only in its be a monster premise, but also in how it implemented the destruction mechanics. Each building in the game could be destroyed piece by piece. Players could punch windows, walls, and other structural elements, literally tearing the buildings apart. The physical interaction with the environments was groundbreaking, as most games at the time did not offer such detailed interactive destructibility. This mechanic was not just visually satisfying, but also strategic, as players needed to decide which parts of the building to destroy first to avoid getting hit by debris or attacks from the ground. As monsters, players could also manage their health, which could be replenished by eating various items found in the buildings, such as food or, humorously, the occasional bathtub. If you ever find yourself turning into a giant monster, remember, bathtubs, not just for baths anymore. And speaking of eating, if you're munching on that like button and feasting on the subscribe as voraciously as George chows down on the high rise, you're doing it right. Keep it up. The game also introduced cooperative multiplayer gameplay. This allowed friends to join as different monsters and play together, leading to chaotic and fun collaborative gameplay. The multiplayer aspect was crucial in enhancing the gameplay's replay value and social appeal, making it a favorite at arcades. Rampage used a scoring method that rewarded players for the amount of destruction caused and the speed of clearing a level, adding a competitive edge to the game. This scoring system encouraged players to find the most efficient ways to cause mayhem, fostering a playful competition either against the game's AI or between friends in multiplayer mode. But when Rampage hit the arcades in 1986 and quickly became a staple of the gaming scene, capturing the hearts of players with its unique premise and engaging gameplay. The sales performance of Rampage was impressive, solidifying its place as one of the top arcade games of its time. The game not only performed well in terms of unit sales, but also became a favorite for arcade operators because of its ability to consistently draw players, thereby generating continuous revenue. Rampage also made a significant impact on pop culture. Its concept of monsters destroying cities has been echoed in various media, including movies and television shows, demonstrating its influence beyond the gaming world. In fact, the game's premise was so compelling that it was adapted into a major motion picture in 2018, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which brought the game's concept to an even broader audience.
Did I just see you close your eye? I just saw you open your eye.
Additionally, Rampage was ahead of its time in representing destructive fun without the dark overtones present in other games. This approach to gameplay, focusing on chaotic fun and destruction within a lighthearted, almost cartoonish context, helped pave the way for other games that balance humor with action. Now, diving into the lesser-known aspects of Rampage uncovers a treasure trove of intriguing details that even the most devoted fans might not know. For instance, did you know that the original concept for the game was even more outlandish than what we ended up with? Initially, the developers toyed with the idea of including more than just the three iconic characters. Early sketches and plans include a wide variety of beasts, such as ostriches, minks, frogs, ferrets, and the common household cat, some of which were inspired by less conventional sources, like a rock star and other pop culture figures, but these were ultimately pared down to the classic trio we know today due to technical constraints and the desire to streamline the game design. Another interesting tidbit is about the game's ending. In a twist that's as bizarre as the game itself, if players manage to complete all 128 levels, a Herculean task by any standard, the monsters reverted back to their human forms. But here's the kicker. These human forms are tiny and vulnerable, wandering the ruins of the last city where they've just destroyed, only to be swallowed whole by another monster if they're playing in multiplayer mode. This quirky, somewhat dark ending is a humorous commentary on the futility of the monster's rampage, adding a layer of irony to the entire gameplay experience. Moreover, one of the most jaw-dropping secrets that emerged post-development was about the game's code. Years later, it was revealed that the programmers had hidden a rudimentary messaging system within the game's code. This system allowed them to leave notes for each other about bugs and features, a clever way to communicate given the limited tools they had at the time. This hidden layer of the game's development underscores the innovative and resourceful spirit of the Rampage team. And there you have it, folks. From the monstrous origins in a brainstorm to becoming the bane of virtual city planners everywhere, Rampage has truly left its mark in the indelible ink of arcade ink. If arcade games had ink. So the next time, if you feel the urge to take out some frustration, remember, it's cheaper and far less legally complicated to drop quarters into Rampage than to explain to the police why you thought a real building needed remodeling. If you enjoyed this high rise through the history of Rampage, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And as always, thank you for watching.